In the quiet moments before the world wakes up, there's a place where pain meets peace, where every breath feels like a prayer and grief stands still. We carry the weight of what was and search for meaning in the smallest things. And sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us we're still here, still healing.
Awesome. All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry for that mix up. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. It's Tony Lynch. And yes, we are the number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief and all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here doing some amazing things, one heartbeat at a time. And as always, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. Head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And most importantly, this is a live stream. So if you have any questions for either myself or my guests, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. One other thing before I bring on my guests, this is for educational purposes only. All right. So now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome Miss Debbie Simmons to the show. Debbie, how you doing?
Hi, I am super excited to be with you guys today.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. So tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, I get lots of fancy titles. Of course, I'm a wife and I'm a mom of 9 adopted children. And then I am a lolly of 15 grandchildren. And in my free time, I get to be a CEO of a nonprofit called Anchor Point, which it's been in existence for about 15 years, and I've started it, and it impacts thousands of families each and every year. And it's such a blessing to be a part of that. But then I'm also known as the legacy architect because I help people discover how to live their legacies now so they have legacies that last. And so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, awesome. Now I want to ask a question about the first nonprofit. Tell people what that nonprofit does for families.
Sure. Our job there is to give families hope. And we do that through several divisions that we have. Our ministry is called Anchor Point. And one of the divisions is Obria Medical Clinic, which works with young girls that find out they're pregnant and they don't know what to do when they're pregnant. They're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And we kind of work alongside them medically and walk them through, their freak out mode and all that good stuff to just go, okay, we can figure out how to do this. And then we have a division called Hope Family Center that gives encouragement and comes alongside these, moms and dads that are going, these kids didn't come with instruction manuals. And it's like, no, they don't. They are the instruction manual. And,
this is true.
Yeah, a lot of times we as just young people that are, having children, we just need somebody to hold our hand a little bit so we get some confidence. And this is what we do, whether it's material assistance or it's work related or trying to figure out the medical system, all these things we want to come alongside of them so that they can move into this arena of parenting and be successful. And then we have a maternity home that works with girls that are homeless and need a place, a safe respite for about 18 to 24 months. And our goal there is, hey, how can we get you to a place where you can sustain yourself and provide for you and your child and set you up for success? And so we get to do that 24/7 with those young ladies. And then we have our community initiatives where we look at how do we raise the tide of parenting. So parenting prenatal and parenting education. We do recovery ministry with abortion recovery or sexual abuse recovery or trauma because a lot of us have stuff that we need to figure our way through. And then we run therapeutic camps in the summer for families who have children that are struggling. They're looking at this kid and they're going, I don't know what to do with that one. That one's, I don't know. And it's like, okay, come on, we're going to go to camp. It's going to be like a staycation, and we're going to transform the life of that child and that family in just a week. And it's a wonderful thing. So, I like to think of it as our communities are only as strong as our weakest families. And so, how can we raise the tide of parenting, give people hope, and help them figure their way so that we as a community are stronger?
I love that. I love that because it reminds me of the community I lived in when I was younger,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? And I love the fact that, there are people out there trying to redirect us back into more of a community um, building asset, because like you said, the community is only as strong as your weakest asset, right? The weakest. So it takes a community to raise children, but it also takes a community to rebuild families as well.
Hmm.
Because I don't know about you, and I think if I'm not, if I'm correct, it's pretty much along the same lines. Is to each one we teach one, right?
Hmm.
So if a family is struggling, what we used to do a long time ago is that if we knew a family was struggling, we get together canned goods and food and things like that and go take it over there to our neighbors, right? Love thy neighbor. Um,
Hmm.
and I love that. How did you get into this?
That's a great question. So I'll just take you back to the beginning and make it short. But, you know, all of us have dreams when we are
Mhm.
young.
Yeah.
And my dream was to be a young grandma. And I'm a girl that gets things done. So I knew I had to find a guy, fall in love, get married, have children, and then I could be the young grandma. And it started out perfect. I found the guy in college, fell in love, got married. I did get my degree, so don't worry about that. I got that too. But so that was like check, 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 right? Everything's going good. And then we ran into issues with infertility. And that was really hard for me, and was really, for a girl who can get anything done, when your body doesn't work and I can't figure out how to make it work,
Mm,
it really makes me question my validity as a woman, as a potential mom, and so issues around, you know, identity and failure and all
yeah.
these things, and stuff were things that I struggled with. And that went on for about 5 years.
Mm,
And eventually I did get pregnant. And I was very excited. And I got pregnant with twins. And that was great until my body tried to miscarry. And then I got the surprise of my life. I was pregnant with quads. And so, what I like to tell people is, our goal is to get those babies to 30 weeks, but that ain't easy. I mean, how many of your audience has eaten for 5 every day, every meal? It's not easy, right? And
yeah,
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 and so what when I think about it, as we were moving forward in that, kind of the fog began to roll in. And sometimes in life, when things get hard, it seems like fog and it's just cloudy. You're figuring your way. And we just continued to make our way. And eventually, around 26 weeks, our goal was 30. At 26 weeks, I found myself standing in water. And
ooh,
in that water meant that one of the baby's sacs had ruptured. So they put me in the
yeah,
hospital. And in the hospital, they said, we're going to try and see how long you can make it. And I was like, okay. And the next morning, contractions came crashing in, and one of the babies had taken a hand and stuck it through my stitched cervix and was waving to the world, hello, I'm coming. And I was
right.
like, no, stop it. It's too early. Just make this go away. And the doctor was like, we can't do that. And so little Zach came a little while later, and they placed him in my arms, and I held him and I rocked him and I loved him until he drifted into eternity. And then I sat with empty arms and with the question of whether my body would be able to continue carrying the other three, or would it reject them. And time passed, and the doctor came back in the room because I was very sick and my blood work was a mess. And she said, you have to induce. And I looked up at her for just, some sliver of hope. And she just shook her head no. And a little while later, Josh, Nate, and Chris each arrived on the scenes. And as they did, they placed them in my arms and I rocked them and I held them and I loved them until they drifted into eternity. And, you don't go to the hospital planning funerals. But here I sat, empty arms, broken hearts. And it wasn't just losing the boys, it was also my dream. Remember, I want to be a young grandma, and this is part of the way to get there. And so the part of me who I thought I was supposed to be is disappearing too. And
Mhm.
I remember sitting there and going, I don't know how to get through this. And so I started in my mind, remember, I'm a doer. So I'm thinking and I'm
Right.
going, how do I figure my way through this? This is just too hard. And what I learned was that, when you and I are faced with difficult things, the number one question that comes up in our mind that we begin to speak is why? Why me?
Mhm.
Why this? Why now? Why? And I was a big why girl right then. I was holding tight to it. And in that hospital room, God just said, you have to give me the why. And I was like, no, I'm not giving you my why. Because if I can get the answer to my why, and it's the last thing I have that I can control,
Mhm.
if I can get the answer to this, then I can figure my way. And he said, you have to give it to me. And I was like, no, oh, no, don't make me give it to you. And eventually I released it and was like, now what do I do? Because I don't know how to work my way through this. And he taught me to change my question from why. And this is the other cool thing is that, this side of heaven, any answer that I would have gotten for why that night, my very next question, when somebody would have told me the real reason I had to not have my boys here,
Mhm.
I would have said, why? Because your answer is not good enough, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there is no good answer that will satisfy the why question this side of heaven. And when we get in heaven, it won't matter. Okay.
Amen.
I'll be with my boys. So I was like, God, what do I do? I don't know how to get through this. And he said, ask me, how do I survive? And so I was like, okay, how do I survive? I don't know how to do this. And he was like, take a deep breath because that gets us up into our prefrontal cortex where we actually
Mhm.
think, and then take your next best step, not your next right one, your next best one. And I was like, okay. And so what I would do was just figure out what I thought my next best step was. And I'd take that step and he would meet me. And then I would take the next step and he would meet me. And this is the journey that I went on for how I got out of and through this very painful grief time of learning to live again. And I just really wanted to live. I wanted to have joy. I wanted to have peace. I wanted to make an impact because I knew eternity mattered and impact mattered. And so I began that journey. And what happened was my faith muscle grew, right? Because every time I took a step, my faith muscle grew. Then I got a different question. The question went from how do I survive to how do I thrive?
Mm.
And I said,
I like that.
I said, God, you're a redeemer of stories. And since you're a redeemer of stories, here's mine. You promised to make something beautiful out of this. I don't understand how that happens. But when I released that, he began to open doors and
Mhm.
leading grief groups or working with people who have lost children, adopting the 9 children that we have. And then there came this thought in my head that I ought to start this ministry. Right? And this was
Mm.
the next level. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay." And so I started Anchor Point, and it's just been wonderful to watch all the lives that have been touched as they've come out of it. And then, writing the book, The Heart of Legacy, doing the speaking that I'm doing, getting to impact people that like are listening to your show. All of this comes from that very difficult time of losing my boys, and my boys' legacy lives on because of the choices that we make today. And
Yeah.
I get to live my legacy now so that I can leave it later. And so that's how I started Anchor Point.
See, I love that. And you had said something that really touched me, and as you was talking about it, it took me back to a place of that question,
Mhm,
right? Um, 2019, uh, my mother had just passed.
mhm.
Yeah, 2019. No, actually, my mother had passed away a couple of years prior, and I was so tired. I was tired of fighting, and as a man, no one ever teaches us how to navigate these things, right? And so when you're conflicted with what you're feeling, um, rational logic goes out the window. It's more reactive, it's more emotional, right? But when you don't understand these emotions, it can translate itself into destructiveness and anger.
Mhm.
And so I struggle with that because just like you, um, losing a child, and I don't wish that on no one. I really
Mhm.
don't. And I commend you of having the strength and the courage to still tell your story and to do the things that you're doing, right? You're an inspiration to me. You
Oh,
encourage me to keep wanting to do more, right? And so I thank you for that. But that question, because I remember it was the same night I tried to take my life. I had planned
mm,
out my suicide. And I
uh-huh.
was in the middle of the desert. And I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Now, before that had happened, before I lost my son and all my family members, um, I've had started on a path of changing me. So, and since I didn't have any role models, I used God as a role model.
Mhm.
I said, "Can you teach me?" Because the men that I knew was just as messed up as I was. So I don't need to talk to you. No, and so I was like, well, I don't drink, this is my lifestyle. So I need to find people that do similar things. And I was totally wrong. I was totally wrong, right? So then I started seeking out other men's groups and realized that those guys was totally messed up. And I just threw my hands up and said, "Good Lord, look, I need some help because I don't know how to be a man. I know how to be a thug. I know
Mhm.
how to be a criminal, and I do believe I got some good in me. I don't know how to be a man, nor do I know how to be a father. And so that was the first part of my transformation was admitting that I didn't have all the answers and looking to something outside of myself for those answers or at least guidance.
Mhm.
And I considered myself to be a very obedient servant and a really good father. And so when I lost my son, I was so angry with God. I said, I don't want to talk to you no more. He said, but I told you what was going to happen. I said, yeah, but I didn't think that you was going to actually do it. Like, who warns somebody before you take somebody away from me, right?
Mm,
And then what I realized is that it was the protection of being aware of what was coming
mm,
and to think outside the box instead of saying, this cannot happen to me, to go, thank you for the time that I have.
mhm,
And so that question, I remember saying, "What am I supposed to do with this?" Because I was so angry, and I said, and the voice said, "Ask me the hard question." And the question was so simple that it was hard. Now that I understand this, what am I supposed to do with it?
mhm,
And like you said, I began to take those steps, and lo and behold, almost 7 years later, here I am.
mhm,
And the things that I've been able to accomplish um has been nothing short of a blessing. And to see the growth, like you said, to watch everything grow from just the faith of a mustard seed, right?
mhm,
And it's if people really look and see where we all started from, I think it would encourage more people to have more faith in that little mustard seed, and realize that you are your own hiccup.
Mhm. Yeah. I
life and
I think
grief.
that, the thing that, the reasons I like the questions of give up your why and then ask, how do I survive is, the why question is it's a very internal question, okay? And it isolates us and it pulls us
Yes,
away from the people that need to help us, and it's like a tornado that just goes down like
oh,
an endless
yes, it
rabbit
is.
hole, and it is the trap of Satan to get us isolated and pull back like that. And so, being willing to figure out a safe place and lay that down and start asking the other questions, the how questions really are movement. And I don't like anybody
Yeah,
to think like I'm some big giant. I mean, like, I just always like to give this, like, one of my big examples of how to, what's the next best step is literally, okay, God, I'm getting up, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm walking around for 5 minutes, and I'm getting back in the bed. And I'm like, that was progress that day. And so it's not like it's a huge thing, but, forward steps, little steps over a long period of time take us miles and miles down the road, right? And they
very
get
true.
easier. And it's not like every step was forward either, because there was days that was just overwhelming. Especially, I like to tell people that grief really, you have after a big thing like this, you really have to go through about 1 or 2 years of life trying to figure out what your new normal looks like. Because,
Yes.
like, for me, I have my boys on April 1st, and what was the next thing? "Oh, let's do Mother's Day. That'll be fun." You know? And, I remember sitting in a church service, and they were celebrating moms, and they were like, "Who just had the most recent birth?" And I'm like, "Ugh, do I say anything? Do I not say anything?" You
Yeah.
know, because I'm still a mom. My boys just aren't here. And, and so I looked at my husband, I said, "That's it. I've had enough. I'll sit outside and you can come get me when it's over." Because we were at his grandparents' church. And, you have to have grace with it yourself and love yourself, that it's okay. You don't have to be super cheery, happy every day. We've got to figure our way. And this is what figuring our way looks like. So it might have a couple of steps backwards, but always coming back around to, okay, what's the next best step? And I love to tell people it's not the next right step, because the next right step often paralyzes us. Is this really the right thing? Or should I be doing this? Or should I be doing this? No, I just need you to do what the best thing is that you and whoever your safe community is encouraging you to do. Do that thing, and God will redirect you and lead you. But the movement is the key. And where am I looking? Am I looking forward? Am I trying to move forward? Because I clearly remember, I'm like, my boys were born 31 years ago. Okay, that's a long time. And I was 26 or 27, and I'm like, I don't want to die now. Physically, emotionally, not physically. I'm like, I still want to live. I still want to have joy and peace and patience and kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control. I want to be an impact player. And God, I don't feel that way right now, but
Right.
I want to, because I had a feeling I'm going to live a long time, and it's going to be terrible to be stuck right here.
You,
And so I'm
you
like, God,
know,
show me how to get out of this.
you know, um, I wanna ask a question, right? Because the day and age that we live in some interesting times,
Mhm.
right? And with the work that you do and with technology, AI, how how has it been to implement AI into the work that you do? Or is it still a challenge?
We do it. we do it at various different levels. I
Mm,
use it for particularly a lot of research as I am expanding in the speaking arena and stuff like that. So I use it for a ton of research and stuff like that. We are implementing in different stages throughout our organization, looking at ways to make us better, make us faster, make us more relevant. So how do you process your thank you notes? How do you process these things? Can these things be automated? How do
mhm,
we customize what we deliver to our donors and our constituents and then our clients? How can we also educate them on how they can use it to go to different levels? So I would say, hey, we're not amateurs, but we're always learning, and it changes so fast.
it
I'm like
does.
I'm like, okay, I thought I knew how to do that. All right. So now how do I do this one? And I find sometimes that it just overwhelms and hurts my brain. Do you know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? I'm just like, oh my gosh. And you know what I come back to? I come back to the same questions that I have with my boys. How do I figure my way through this? And what's the next best step?
Yeah.
And I just start taking it, and I'm going to figure my way if I'm doing that. And then how do I thrive? I use that all the time, even now,
Mhm.
in my CEO role, in my mom role. You know, those key questions have been so life transformational for me over the years that they're invaluable.
Okay. Now, I guess my next question would be, um, how, what sort of challenges did you have, and how do you stay consistent in that mindset, right? Because I know for some people, it can, when life starts life, and it's really hard to stay positive, right?
Mhm.
It's really hard to clamp down on your why, right? Because sometimes you get it wrapped into the moments of it, right? Those singular moments, and it's really hard to let go. And you can build a world where it feels as if everything is collapsing around you. And it only takes but that fraction of a second to get out of that mindset and get drawn right back into, anger or victimhood or shame or guilt and things like that, right? How
Yeah.
do you keep your mindset so focused on those words?
Well, first of all, what I would tell you is, the truth of the matter is laying down why is a choice. And it's a choice we have to make. And we get to determine whether we make that choice, right? Or whether we fall
Mhm.
back into it. So anytime, it's not unusual for me to find myself where I might hear a why come out of my mouth even now. But what I've trained myself to do over the years is
Mhm.
I get about 2 minutes of why time, and then I gotta cut it off. Okay?
Okay.
So, I can pitch a fit for 2 minutes, and then I'm like, "I can't do that anymore." I'll give you a good
I
example
love
is
it.
the other day, this has been about 2 years now, but about 2 years ago, after COVID, I had an employee that filed a lawsuit against us, and
Oh,
I got that at work, right? And, I got all the paperwork and whatever, and I guarantee you that what came out of my mouth first was, "Why is this happening to me? And why?" And we tried to do everything right, and why? And then I went, "Oh my gosh, I gotta stop that, because this is not going to end pretty if I don't." And I just know that it won't end pretty, right? And I knew that I had to stop. So I kind of captured it, and I was like, "Okay, what do I gotta do next?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, "You know what? I probably need to call my attorney. That's probably a pretty smart move." And so I was like
wow.
calling the attorney, and what I have just come to value, and this is what I have to value, and I hold to, is one, I completely trust that my daddy God's got me. Okay. And building my faith muscle through that process of going through grief has really helped me with that over the years. And the more I lean into that, the stronger I get. So that's number one. the second thing is that I know that people are watching how I work through things. Okay.
Yes.
And my
Yes.
life is teaching more than my words. Okay. So I know that my staff is watching in that situation, or if it's a situation in our family, I know my kids are watching. And
Hmm.
I consider it a great privilege that they're watching me, and that if I can do it right, if I can teach them how to walk through hard things, their life is going to be totally different. And they're going to be able to handle the hard things that come their way, because you know what? Hard things are gonna come, and
Yeah.
I need them to be able to walk through it. And so, I just hold strong to my life can help them. I had a friend, that was diagnosed with brain cancer, and he was in
Hmm.
a small group with me, and, he has a love-hate relationship with me. And, when he was starting to walk through his stuff, I got him on the side of the room one night, and I was like, "You have a huge opportunity." I said, "As you walk through this, no matter, we know that when you get to heaven, you're going to be cured. So we know you're going to be healed one day. It's just whether it'll be on this side of heaven or the other." And I
Hmm.
said, "As you walk through this, you have an opportunity to teach and to show your kids and your wife how to walk through this well." And that is a huge privilege and a huge responsibility. And I said, "I'll help you. I'll do it with you." He's like, "I hate you." And I'm like, "I know." But
I love
and
it.
he is no longer with us today, and that's unfortunate. But I can tell you that still today, 5 or 6 years later, that the people in our small group and his family, they talk about how he walked through his last time here with us. And part of it is my prodding, but that God really worked in him, and his children and his wife have all walked through it so well, the grief of all of that. And it's
Hmm.
because he laid the foundation for it to happen well. And the small group members still make comments about what they've learned from that. And I go, that's the kind of people we want to be. So I hold tight to that I have an
Okay.
opportunity to do that more than I need to stay in my why.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that because when we talk about grief, right? I love the fact that I meet more people who are now starting to define grief in a more positive light. So we're getting rid of the stigma that everything about grief has to be sad. It has to be
Mm,
something very traumatic. And I think people get so hung up on that they forget that there's a side of healing, of joy, of laughter, of still wanting to connect with other people, of still wanting more out of this life, but also having the understanding, or wishing that others had the understanding that now life carries a different meaning for us, right? Because we've seen the what can happen. It's
yeah.
no longer a myth, right? All of that, people used to always tell me when I lost my son, man, I'm so glad I don't know what I could do if that ever happened to me. And I used to not say anything, just look at him go, but deep down inside, it used to make me mad. And then somebody told me, well, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And I think that was my breaking point. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're never supposed to bury your child.
Mm,
I said, where does it say that? They go, huh? I go, explain to me, where does it say that? But I think at that present moment in time, I had begun to dive deeper into the lessons of the Father, of the Creator. I
mhm,
began to really think about it and really think about the people who were in the Bible who had experienced these things. So I knew I wasn't the only one.
mhm.
It just made it feel as if I was because I internalized my grief.
Yeah, and you isolate it.
and I
You kinda
isolated.
isolate, right? Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
but I
it's
had to. I had no choice,
yeah.
right? Well, I'm not going to say that I had no choice. I would say that the way that life went, it went exactly the way it was supposed to because I needed that time to myself in isolation to focus more on putting the pieces back together, but
Mhm,
not all of them, just the ones that I needed in order to take another breath, another step, right? And whatever else was left, I realized that I couldn't carry it with me.
mhm.
And so when I started saying that to people, they looked at me and go, I said, no, 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 please explain it to me. Because from the stories of that I understand of Job, um, Cain and Abel, you have brothers killing each other and things like that. And Job lost his whole family. Abraham, a lot of others that come before us who have lost their children, right? And then if we think about the days of um, the early settler days, right? It was such a common thing, especially during the Black Plague moments and things like that. People were having multiple kids, because it was expected to lose their children,
Mm,
right? And so they had multiple and said, if we lose one, at least we have this one. We will figure it out. I mean, and then when I started really doing the research on it, I went, so I'm not special then. I, okay, so let me let me read more into how they navigated this world, right?
mhm.
And I realized that the one thing that they always had in common was that they always understood, you know, um, that this too shall pass,
Mhm.
and it was okay to remember the people who have gone, but it's not okay to stay stuck in the moments that they're still here.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
some
so
point,
I think, when we did the memorial service for the boys, I actually,
mhm,
got up and spoke during it.
did you? You was a
Yeah.
lot braver than me.
Well, I would just felt like God wanted me to do it, and I was like, "What am I gonna say?" My husband's looking at me like, "You're crazy," and I'm like, "I know, but I'm just supposed to do it." And you know what I told people? Because I really wanted people to be able to grieve with us and walk alongside us, but I really, really didn't want pity. And a lot of times people they think you're pitiful, and I'm like, no. And so what I actually said when I got up there was I said, we've gone through a very hard time and we've lost our boys, and we need you to pray for us and we need you to love on us and everything. And I said, but I do want you to know something. I do want you to know that I'd do it again, even if the end
Mm,
was the same. And I said, because what you don't understand is that I had perfect children. They did nothing but love me. They never talked back. They never misbehaved. And I, at that time, was a perfect mom. And I just loved them unconditionally. And it's super sweet. And so I know I will be with them one day. But for now, I need you to walk alongside of us. And I want you to know that I would much rather love and lose than to never love. And it was interesting because everybody was coming up to hug us at the end, and all of them are crying. And I'm like, why are you? I'm like, let me console you. But,
I love that.
that perspective is so powerful, and we have to help people know how to love us well.
Yeah.
Um, and, I want you to be able to walk alongside me. Don't feel sorry for me. I was blessed with the time that I had. And it's not over. The story's not over. And I'm a different person now because of them.
Now, I love that.
Mhm.
I truly love that because you've given me something as well, another way to look at things. Although, I think it's similar, our paths. I've been so determined to leave a legacy
Mhm.
behind. And part of that legacy is to be able to implement pieces of myself, the memories and the people that I've loved, and to everything that I do, right?
Mhm.
And what I found was is that life has a strange way of coming back and saying, "Hey, do you remember these things right here?" Right? And I just thought about this not too long ago, and it was a quote that I'm working on through one of my animations that I'm going to add in, and it's a simple phrase for when grief does show up. It's a reminder to honor it. For the grief that shows up are memories that is begging to have attention,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And it's pieces of you that is healing once you allow yourself to pay attention and really absorb the details
Mhm.
of said memory, right?
Mhm.
But again, this is just one more step in the right direction, I believe, in helping others understand uh, um, what it truly means to grieve.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with the book by Van Camp that is "The Body Keeps the Score."
Hmm.
And what it says is that grief, we imprint memories and grief in our body, and our body knows. So, like for instance, my boys were born on April 1st. And even now, 30 years later, in a very good spot that, come around, the very end of March, I might find myself kind of in a funk. And I'm in a funk because my body knows that this is a reminder of when they were born, right? And it's always interesting. I'll go, oh, that's what it is, and it's just, for yourself to heal, we have to let those things work their way out of our body. So our
Right.
body might remember, like for instance, with your child that passed away, when the birthday comes up or when, a special event that happened that you remember, that those memories come up because our body knows. And so our body is telling us, hey, give some space to this and let this work its way in a good, healthy way out of your system because you're ready for it. You're
Hmm.
ready to handle it. And I mean, that's 30 years ago, right? And so I still remember. And it's just fascinating because, when I adopted, I had 5 children in my home. And one of them, goes, it's April 1st. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've gotten so busy with you guys, it wasn't as loud, right? And so
Right.
that memory, but I still was like, oh, and figure out ways to remember. Like I have a mother's ring that I wear, almost every day that has their birthstones in it. You
Hmm.
know, I have their feet prints in different places, or just different little things that are markers for me of how far I've come,
Hmm.
um, and that I can, celebrate, that fact. It's pretty cool that a ministry exists because those boys, a
Right.
little short time here on earth, and that's impacting thousands, and we can celebrate that. And it causes you
Very
to look
true.
at it differently. Now, I would go, think about it. If my boys had lived, my life would be very different, right?
Very
I
true.
wouldn't, I don't know that I would have adopted. And I don't know that I would have started a ministry. I'm an engineer. I would have been working, and I don't know that I would be the person that I am today. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to be thankful for in this journey, and realizing that the time between losing my boys to when I'm reunited with them will
Hmm.
seem like a blink of the eye on the other side of eternity. Right now,
Very
it
true.
seems like forever, but it really will be a blink of the eye.
Now, I love the fact of that you adopted. Um, and to be honest, I don't know if I would have had the courage to do it. Because I was so heartbroken,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
And inside of me, something went numb.
Mhm.
and there was just this hollowness to it, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it I reflected back on me and the life that I've lived. And there was a sense of fear.
Mm.
And it's a trauma response because you get so used to things being taken away from you that you're afraid to accumulate things, right? You know, being
Yeah.
homeless so many times, I was afraid to accumulate furniture. You
Mm.
know, I was always, although I had, it felt good to have a key to the door. I always looked at life and went, I don't need furniture. You're just going to take it away from me anyway. What
Oh.
do I need with all of those clothes for? You're just going to take it away. So I was so used to life just taking away things that I just went, what's the point of having anything?
Mhm.
You know, I'm gonna have to figure it out anyway, right? What's the point of having anything? And it took me close to 27 years to realize that it was okay to want a home,
Mhm.
right? It was okay to want a home. It's okay to um, want someone to go home to, or someone to come home to you,
Mhm.
right? It was okay to have a pet because I was like, not getting any pets neither, you know. I mean, seriously, I would like if I had a vehicle, I would make sure that the vehicle was on its last leg. So if it blew up, it was okay. But I
Oh,
refused to make payments on a vehicle because I was like, you're just going to take it away from me anyway.
yeah. Yeah. And
It's-
that's hard when you're stuck in that mental framework. I mean,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was very fortunate that, even from the moment that I said it, I'd rather love and lose than never love. And I'm in it. And that perspective, knowing that Daddy God's got me, um, gives me hope. And so I didn't really get stuck in that. And that's a real blessing for
Mhm.
me. That, I guess the quicker we can get there, the better, right? But that is having people, either a relationship with God that'll get you there, or having people in your life that are speaking that into you and speaking into you the ability to see the positive.
Mhm.
And so this is why I think, telling our stories is so important because other people get hope from them. But it's like, you can make it. You can do this. You can get through this, even if it seems dark right now.
Mhm.
And not and the reason we tell our stories is because the more we tell our story to save people, it takes more and more of the sting away. And it
Mhm.
may take us hundreds of times of telling our stories. And you don't tell your story to everyone. You tell them to save people. People that are gonna
Right.
still look in your eyes and go, "You are valuable. You are worth it. You can get through this, and the sun is gonna come up tomorrow." That's the people that we need on our team to remind us when I can't remind myself. And, so
Like that.
it's so important to surround ourselves or to figure out who those safe people are. And it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be a ton, but it has to be some. And, who are they and who can I trust with my story? And, I've told my story thousands of times now. And, it's easy for me to talk through it without a bunch of emotional processing and stuff like that. But, you know, it still makes a difference. And, over time, I've gotten here. I didn't get here overnight, right? And
Yes,
so
yes.
I think everybody ought to know it's still a journey. I mean, a lot of people I've walked through grief with, I'm like, just write your story. And now read it out loud to the bathroom wall and then do this. And, because this is life is a journey. It's not a destination.
Right.
And, and so
Mm.
it's
I
gonna have
like that.
highs and it's gonna have lows, and we just need to lean in and, trust him that he's got it and he's writing good stories for us. even when it seems painful or even when we don't understand.
See, I like that, right? I definitely like that because it's really easy to get sidetracked, but the path, you'll never know when the path switches up, right?
Mhm.
Because I thought for the longest time that I was doing everything right. I
Mm,
didn't break, after my son passed away. I didn't go out there and abuse other people or hurt other people because I was hurting. I isolated. So that was, I was like, if I stay away from you, then I don't have to worry about this spilling over into you, you
yeah.
know.
Mhm.
So I isolated really hard. The other part of it was is that um the faith part.
Mhm.
I was so sure that I was being faithful, and only to find out that I was going against what was coming to me because I was being stubborn. My ego and my pride refused to let me be submissive to the gift, to grief, right? To be obedient, to listen, because I was going, you can't hurt me anymore. You can't do it. No, I don't have to listen to you. I'm gonna do it my way, right?
Mhm.
And I was going, either you come with me or you don't. I don't really care at this present point in time, but you got to do, you got to make up a choice. This is me talking to God, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Ah,
what am I, right? But
yeah.
I was so adamant about doing it my way, only to realize is that I was going against my own best interests.
Yeah. And this is, and that's where I go isolation, just basically it elevates our suffering because, wouldn't it have been wonderful if someone could have got close enough to,
Mm.
in a loving way, to challenge the way you were thinking? Um, e
Yeah.
even though, the truth of the matter is if someone would have got close enough and they would have challenged it, you'd have been pissed.
Oh, see, I
But
was devious. I was real devious. So, and at the time when it happened, I was I was really into bodybuilding. So
Mhm,
I'm 6'4", and at
mhm,
that time I was just over 315 pounds. So I'm a big dude, right? And at that time, I was also driving trash trucks. So we never had the arms. So we used to have to dump our trash cans, by hand. So I've always been pretty strong.
yeah,
That's one of my biggest assets. So when everything happened, people, people pretended like they wanted to be around me, but they were so afraid to be around me. You ever be around people and go like this, like, huh?
yeah. Well, it's funny because I've done a lot of work with, offenders, in the prison system, and a lot of them are big dudes, and they are rough or whatever, but you know what? You need people like me or someone that's willing to get in your face and go, "You can do this. Stop. And you can be as mad at me as you wanna be, but deep down, I'm right." And, I have a friend that, he was going through a really hard time. And I was like, dude, you hate God. And he was like, I would never say that. I don't hate God. And I was like, yes, you do. And anyway, so we were sitting there, we were trying to work through it, and he was getting madder and madder and madder. And I said, you need to tell God you hate him. I don't hate him. And then finally, when he said it, oh my gosh, biggest breakthrough ever. And I'm like, dude, I told you. I said, this is what you're doing. And it didn't solve the problem, but oh my gosh, truth finally came through.
Mhm.
And he's like, I do hate God. And he goes, I hate you too. And I'm like, I know. I know. But I'm going, I still see your value and your worth, and I know you're struggling.
Mm.
And I know that you can get through this, but it'll only be because you tell the truth. Because God can work with the truth. When we say, I'm
See,
mad, I hate you, and all that stuff, God can work with that.
see,
Um,
I remember that. People think that when I really got angry with God, the words that came out of my mouth was, "If you was down here, I would murder you."
That's pretty
If you
bad.
was to if you was to get in front of me after all the sacrifices that I made to become an obedient servant to you, to have you hurt me worse than anything else, I would murder you because I want you to feel the same pain that I feel. I look, I, I I can't make that stuff up. I was so angry, and
And
God said,
he
"I
said
understand."
he said, I lost my son too.
Yeah, He said, "I understand." You forget, um,
Yeah.
my son, right? And I went, uh,
I
I
lost
guess
my
that is a
son. I lost my son for you.
right. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, he goes, just think about it. He goes, there's not a pain, there's not a worry, there's not a glimmer of happiness, peace that I don't feel because your experience is mine. So when you say that you feel this way towards me, trust me, I understand.
Mhm.
And it's okay.
Yep.
He goes, and now what's your next step? Now
Yeah.
that you got this out the way, what is it that you want now?
Mhm.
And I said, I want to do something that no one else is doing. I want to help make a difference in another man's life. He said, yeah, okay. Now let me show you what your gift holds for you.
Mhm.
And that phrase, your gift shall make room for you, always stuck out to me
Mhm.
because I think I was listening to Dr. Miles Monroe and he was explaining the gift,
Mhm.
right? He goes, and then also Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said the same thing. So all of these great people are saying the same things. I think I want to pay attention to them. He goes, like in so many words, it's going, hey, no matter who you is, your gift will make room for you. When you
Mhm.
tap into your gift, there's no running from your gift. Your gift is going to attract the people to you. No matter where you are, you can be in the mountains, you can be in the middle of a desert. Your gift, these people, you are a beacon for this. And Dr. Miles Monroe said, I'm coming for what you owe me. What you carry do not belong to you. It belongs to the people that you serve.
Mhm.
And I started thinking, I said, well, if I'm supposed to do that, why would I make it hard for people to find me? And that's kind of laid the foundation of why I do what I do today, right? Having these beautiful conversations with
Mhm.
amazing people and
Mhm.
things like that. So I only have a couple more questions for you before I let you go and
Okay.
everything like that. Now, first, I want to say thank you again. Amazing story, powerful testimony. And first thing, you have a book.
Uh-huh.
Tell people how to find your book.
Okay. So the book is a lot of my story, but it also has the journey of Anchor Point in it. So it lets people see kind of how God works in individual lives and through the building of Anchor Point. But it's called The Heart of Legacy. And you can get it for free. It's my gift to you guys. It is theheartoflegacy.com. Just go on there. You can sign up, get it. It'll be shipped right to you, and it's my blessing to you. But it is about how you can become a fearless, faithful, focused person. And I know for some of you, as you maybe sit in different places, this might be the perfect encouragement for the next step. And it's full, chock full in the middle of ways to help you move so that we can get unstuck for good. I think that that's just a wonderful thing that we ought to all be in the journey. So I love to give that to people. It's my way of reaching back and grabbing someone and bring them along. And so I hope it's an encouragement to those of you who want to pick that up.
It's definitely an encouragement. And also, now, my next question would be if Miss Debbie had a superpower, what would it be?
You know what my superpower is, and it drives people crazy, but it's okay. My superpower is that I can generally see who you are supposed to be well before you can. So God has given me a wonderful gift of discernment and seeing the potential of people and then helping them unlock it.
I love that. I love that. Now, last question. If you can leave the audience with something,
Mhm.
what would you leave them with?
So, if you're sitting in the audience today and you are struggling and you're trying to figure out, like, how can I find my way? Um, what I want you to know is that Daddy God looks at you and he sees you and he knows exactly what's going on. And when he looks at you, he smiles and he is
Mhm.
pleased and he is asking you and encouraging you to lean into him, not to run from him, because he will show you the way if we trust him. And as we go and we're learning to take those next best steps, I want you to remember that no matter what today is like, tomorrow the sun still comes up
Mm.
and we can try again. And eventually the fog will clear and you will see that you have found your way and probably found your purpose in
Mm.
that same season. So keep on taking that next best step.
I love that. I love that. Guys, go check out our website and get that free book and
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
I know I want one. We got to talk. I want one of those things too.
Well,
Um,
you know the website, you can get
well,
it.
I'm definitely gonna get one. Um, so now my next thing is tell people how they can find you on social media.
Sure. The easiest way is to go to my website. So it's thedebbieSimmons.com and all the social media links there, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, whatever they have me on, LinkedIn. It's all there for you.
Awesome, awesome. And with that being said, that Miss Debbie, thank you again. We have to do a second one. You guys know the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I'm also involved with a lot of other things as well. You guys, we are now on Roku and Fire TV, so you guys can go there and check it out. It's under the Adventures of Grief Guy. Of course, we're on YouTube. Go there, check it out. The Adventures of Grief Guy YouTube channel, the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast channel, and the Connect Work podcast channel. So go there, check out all three of those. You guys are going to see more episodes. You're going to see a lot more coming up. April of this year is the 25th, 26th, and the 27th. We do have the Global Grief Conference 2026. We have close to over 50 presenters already, and we're still growing. It is a live stream, so stay tuned for that. I will drop more information out. If you haven't subscribed to the magazine, Grief Talk Magazine, don't forget to do that so you can get your free copies and stay ahead of everything that's coming. Other than that, I want to say thank you guys again for allowing me to bring more amazing conversations to the table, help you understand that you're not alone and that there's people out here that can help you navigate what you're going through. And to go, please go check out Miss Debbie. She's doing some amazing work. And as always, guys, be sure to tell the people that's around you that you love them because tomorrow's not promised to you. All right. And with that being said, we are out and we're going to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again, Miss Debbie.
Yeah.